Hi, I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and this video is part of an ongoing series of tutorials showing how to use the quilt as you go technique. In this one, I'm going to show you the back of a pieced quilt. I showed you how to join the blocks together, but this time I'm going to show you the back of a finished pieced quilt and also how I basted it to the backing. So this is the quilt that I'm working on. The top is completely pieced, and now I'm working on basting it with the back. I had a couple of questions about what the blocks look like when you join them together. So I wanted to show this before I got it completely basted down. So I showed you in that other video, and I'll post a link to that in a pop-up here, but I showed you how I press the seams open between the blocks, and somebody asked about what those intersections look like. So I wanted to show you. You just press the intersection open just like you would any of the other blocks. And you would think that that creates a lot of bulk there. It really does not. You can't even really feel it from the front of the quilt at all. So what we have here, I'm going to show you now how we join it to the back, which is really extremely easy and really similar to a regular quilt. So I've already got my batting in here and my front, so all I'm doing is layering this with the backing. I could use a regular fabric here, but I'm using a cuddle fleece just to make this an extra cuddly quilt. But both of them work fine, and the technique is the same no matter which one you're doing. So just like any other quilt, and I've got a whole video already on how to layer and baste a quilt, and I'll post a link to that. But basically you just layer the two together, do not stretch them, and you just pin them. And I've got a section here that's already pinned. I pin very closely. I'm not going to do any quilting now in the middles of the blocks because I've already done that. But I've pinned very closely along all of the seams that I am going to quilt. Now on this quilt, because I've already, the other thing that makes it different from a regular quilt, because other than that it's the same, usually you need to look at your batting package to see how close together your quilting lines need to be. There are a lot of battings that need to be quilted every 2 inches or every 4 inches. I use the Warm and Natural, which actually can go up to 10 inches, but I still like to quilt it closer than that because when you wash it, the closer the quilting, the nicer crinkle you get. So I've already done that close quilting, so all of the batting is secure in there now. I don't need to worry about securing the batting to the quilt. All I need to worry about is securing the back to the quilt. So I can quilt much farther apart, which is great because now I'm dealing with the whole size of a quilt, which is not very pleasant to wrestle through a sewing machine. And I have a video that already shows you how to do that. So all I'm going to show you here is what I'm going to do, and that is to quilt along all of these lines. And I'm going to quilt actually a little bit in from the lines because I want to create a tiny little frame around each block to emphasize the kind of portrait effect of this. But you could quilt right in the ditch. So this is actually going to be very minimal quilting. It'll probably only take me an hour or two to quilt enough to secure the backing to this quilt, and then I'll bind it just like any other quilt. And I've already got a video on that, and I will link to that also in a pop-up here so that it's easy for you to get to. So that's it. Once you get those blocks joined together, you really are treating this just like a regular quilt. So that's it. Once you get that the quilt top pieced together, you treat it just like any other quilt. Layer it with the backing just the same, you pin it to baste it just the same, and you quilt it just the same, only you don't have to quilt as closely together. So while you're working that whole big massive quilt through your machine, you really have to do it a lot fewer times because your quilting lines to secure the backing can be much farther apart. I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World. I'll see you next time.